Hello and welcome. This is Christophe Clermont and today we talk about splitters. Splitters is an extremely simple concept to allow your buyers to modify their photo collages. So let's say we have these 9 images here in that grid and the user can easily just make images smaller, bigger, or just even drag them over the other images and make them disappear. It's extremely simple to align photo collages, to change the number of images, to, by using the scissor tool, even create new images again and assign images to that new frames. But also, on the other hand, the user will never be able to destroy the layout. There is no way to move the image outside of the page in the bleed area or somewhere else. The other real beautiful thing about splitters is that they are resizable. So in that example with the frame canvas here, we go to size and color and change the size to landscape format. And the splitter layout automatically adjusts to that size. Same happens with portrait. And that just happens automatically with any splitter layout. The last thing in the buyer side is the splitter menu. Whenever I select one of these cells of the images in a splitter layout, it shows me the menu. And we already have seen that the user can actually use the scissor tool to create new images. But also we got this grid tool here where the size of the grid can be determined and even extended to the bleed area of the product. And depending on the product, the splitter layout will use exactly the bleed that is available. New splitter grids or splitter layouts or just splitters can be created fairly easy. Normally it starts always with an image because image is a prominent element in splitters. Just create a new image, put it on the page here, and then you will find this splitter tool in the context menu where you simply can say, I cut this image into 2 parts, horizontally or vertically. That's all what you need to do. Now you got a splitter. And you already see the designer side splitter tool, which allow you to change the dimension of the 2 images here, but still maintain the outer border. So that's the basic idea of the splitter. Whatever shape of the grid you choose, it always stays the same. The buyer later on cannot modify that. Here, of course, you can. What happens behind the scene was that Printess automatically activated the splitter allow and the content allow here in the buyer side settings. So that happened for the both frames. If you want to go the manual way and build your splitter from scratch, then you just put an image here, go to the buyer side, activate splitter and content for the photo, copy paste this frame, and when you put them close together now, they automatically snap into the splitter layout. So wherever you put them here, it automatically splits to that. So what you see here, it's not mandatory that the outer dimensions of this grid are square. So even now, if I select them all, and I always can select all my splitter frames with the splitter grid tool here in the toolbar, so you can press select grid. And since these 3 frames are all splitters, you also have the splitter grid tool on the right hand side once you have a frame selected, where you then can choose the gap from super large to even no gap at all. So as you see, the splitters are really inside this area here and the outside is not modifiable by the buyer, which easily can be discovered. You see now the buyer will automatically see the hint here, and when you go to the buyer side, you only be able to change the edges which have other splitter elements connected to them. But honestly, most of the time you will start going very fairly straightforward with a grid. So let's do that again. Put an image in here, just cut them horizontally and vertically, and then we got our first beautiful splitter design, and we can just reduce the gap a little bit to medium here again, and it will work, and can upload images and make images, more images, less images, or even reduce them again. If you want this splitter to be at the edge of the document, because now I want to talk about resizing. Splitters, as I mentioned before, are automatically resizing. So if I'm making this page smaller, the splitter gets smaller or wider, because the splitter has the luxury that the elements, each element can change their proportions. So the aspect ratio doesn't stay the same. That means it will just scale proportional to even shifts of the page size, which are unproportional. Splitter will always stay visually in the same area. If you want to dock them to the edge of your document, that's super easy. You just drag them close to the edge or across the edge, and it automatically snaps onto that edge. So now we have the same gap around here as we have at the edge, and when increasing the gap, it will increase the gap as well at the edge. And once they are snapped to one edge of your page, it automatically shows the remove gap around tool, because now you can decide whether you want them to have a small gap around at the edge or if they should snap to the page border. And page border in that case means that it is the bleed area. So when we add bleed to that document, the splitter automatically, let me make this more visible, the splitter automatically snaps into the bleed area. This is super handy when you do layout snippets with splitters, because as I mentioned before, it will snap to the bleed depending on the target document. We can turn that off again with add gap around, and we can lock it on the right side as well and on the bottom side. So now our splitter is kind of full page splitter. Well, whatever we change, it will adjust to that.